Well, food is something that we're everybody, well, except for one person I've ever met in my life, is fairly obsessed with. And I have spent years exploring all of the different roles that it plays in our lives well beyond nutrition. It's a currency for love, it's a substitute for a lot of things. It is something that you stuff into weird old psychic wounds. It's a link to earlier times and traditions. It's an excuse to socialize, and increasingly, it's a form of entertainment. And I am going to start with reading a brief selection from my essay, Table for One. Excuse me. I enjoy eating alone. No one has a say but the voices in my head, and when they're in charge, anything's possible. Steamed broccoli for breakfast, eggs and sausage for dinner, or maybe just a piece of fruit, cookies during meal prep, during the meal, and after too, if they're still appealing. Who knows? I might even make food choices and combinations that match just about anyone's definition of a proper meal, which is actually what happens most of the time. Predictability isn't the goal. Happy making tastes are, and all the better if they arrive with fun and adventure on the side. The freedom is what I appreciate most. It's liberating to assemble a meal and eat it without concern for another person's needs, expectations, or reactions. If I cook for someone or suggest a restaurant, I go to trouble to come up with something that meets the person's tastes. I left political cooking behind in my 20s when a then frequent dining companion not so wrongly interpreted my reliance on the vegetarian epicure as foisting an agenda on my audience. This approach is not so much due to codependency, though a touch may well be in the picture. It just strikes me as considerate and good manners. If I'm the only one who's going to eat, on the other hand, my tastes are all that matter. I'll try experiments and make substitutions to which I would never subject anyone else. What? No olive oil? Well, what if I seared that pork chop in Pinot Noir vinegar? Fortunately, I am not fussy. Fending for myself is not only liberating, it's relaxing. I don't have to impress anyone, be an expert, or contend with someone's judgments, assumptions, or insecurities. I get to eat for myself and as myself, and not as a food writer, a persona that has a way of popping up after hours, whether I invite her or not. The label stirs complex emotions in some people, often a jumble of envy, intimidation, and something that looks like awe. Once a filter like that locks in any shared meal, even any restaurant suggestion, especially any restaurant suggestion, can lead to uncomfortable complications. Home cooks asking, "Are you going to review this meal?" and laughing nervously, very nervously, and backsplash on your professional competence and reputation. When I'm alone, the dynamics are simpler. They're just me and food and whatever is going on in my head. No matter where it takes place, the experience of eating alone leads directly to the question of how comfortable you are with your own company, which is to say, with yourself. The prospect makes some people uneasy. When no one's around to provide a buffer, they'll enlist other distractions to ward off awareness of or perish forfeit examination of the self. Watching TV or reading magazines, newspapers, the back of cereal boxes, it's all an equivalent of white noise, blocking out whatever is on the inside. When people share food, especially if one of them was the cook, the subtext usually runs something like this: let me prove my love to you with this delicious meal, and you can prove your love in return by eating a lot. Second or third helpings, please. Funny how the exchange of love aspect of eating disappears when the only one person is at the table. Have you ever sensed this kind of motivation in meals you've had by yourself? Well, I certainly haven't. My growing penchant for cooking full meals is a start, but I still accord other people a lot more consideration in the kitchen than I give myself. The exchange is possible, though I've heard, the exchange is possible, though I've heard of one person who mastered it. He was a coworker of a friend of mine in a design studio a few decades back. Each day at lunch, the coworker would pull out a tablecloth, napkin, plate, flatware, candlestick, and a single wine glass, the only one he owned. After arranging the table, he would set out and calmly eat a full meal he'd prepared the night before. Add to the novelty of the scene the fact that the coworker was a Black man in a largely Caucasian company. One day, my friend asked why he went to all this trouble. The answer? Because I deserve it. The voices in my head are still chewing on that one.